This video will demonstrate how to factor a trinomial. Okay, consider the trinomial 20p squared minus 23p plus 6. Okay, notice our leading coefficient is not 1, so we need to put a little bit extra thought into this one. There is no greatest common factor either. Okay, so we're going to do this using what's called trial and error, or the reverse FOIL method. So, first thing I like to do is I like to list factors of 20, the leading coefficient. So, some possible factors of 20 include 20 times 1. I can think of 10 times 2. I can think of 5 times 4. I think that's about it. Now we'll look at factors of 6. The last term. I can think of 6 times 1, and I can think of also 3 times 2. Now you got to be careful here, because notice our middle term is negative. Now that's going to impact what numbers we want to use as far as factors of the last term, because our last term's sign is positive. Now you can multiply two numbers to get a positive in two different ways. If both numbers are positive, the product will be positive. If both numbers are negative, the product will also be positive. Now you got to think of what we do when we do FOIL. We usually take numbers from our list of 20 and multiply them by numbers from our list of 6. For example, we would be doing 20 times 6 and 1 times 1. So if I think of this 20 times this 6, and then this 1 times this 1. Product of the outer, product of the inner. Now if everything's positive, that sum would turn into would be positive. So we want these numbers here to actually be negative. Okay, now at this point, it's really just trial and error. Since we want a negative 23p, I kind of like to usually start in the middle. So, the first trial I would use is maybe write 5p and then 4p. Now, in thinking of FOIL, those would be the first. 5p times 4p is 20p squared. Okay, now let's look at our list of factors of 6, negative 3 and negative 2. So let's just put negative 3 here and negative 2 here. Okay, now what we do is we think of the product of the outer and the product of the inner. So the outer the outer here, and let me just choose a pen here. The outer is 5p and negative 2. So that product would be negative 10p. And then the inner, negative 3 and 4. And that product would be negative 12p. That sum is negative 22p. Now remember, we want a negative 23p. So that didn't work. Okay, so let's try keeping 5p and 4p in the same place. But let's try switching the location of negative 2 and negative 3 and see what happens. Okay, so product of the outer. So the outer would be 5p times negative 3. 5p times negative 3 is negative 15p. The inner is negative 2 times 4p. That's negative 8p. And negative 15 minus 8 is negative 23. Now that's what we wanted. We'll give it one last check. So we'll check the entire product using FOIL. 5p times 4p, 20p squared. Now the outer. 5p times negative 3, negative 15p. Now the inner. Negative 2 times 4p, negative 8p. And now the last. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. That produces 20p squared minus 23p plus 6. That is the trinomial that we wanted. Therefore, our answer is 5p minus 2 times 4p minus 3. Now, I was lucky enough to get this on the first try. Or the second try, actually. Many times you have to go back to your list, and if you would try the 5 and 4 combination. If neither of those worked, I would then move up to the negative 6 and negative 1. Now, if that didn't work, I would try the 10 and 2 combination as my first terms. I would then work with negative 3 and negative 2. If neither of those worked, I would go to negative 1 and negative 6. So in that sense, it's called trial and error. So it took us 2 trials. But in many cases, it takes more than 2 trials before you finally find the right combination. But on our second try, we found the correct answer.